Released in 1990 in arcades and ported to the Sega Genesis in 91 and also the Sega Master System in 91. We have Mercs. And this game I had, basically no opinion of because I didn't play it in the arcades. So let's pop it in the old Genesis and check it out, see how it looks today. Now, my first impression of this game was, wow, it's a Capcom game. I had no idea. I don't remember seeing it in the arcade. I take that back. I remember seeing it in the arcade, but I never remembered playing it. So it's quite possible I never actually played the game. But I was pleasantly surprised to see it was a Capcom game because in the late 80s, early 90s, there really were three excellent video game studios. And they were Konami, Capcom, and Nintendo. I mean, bar none. They were the three biggies out there. So when I first saw the horrible box art on the game, I didn't have too big of a hope for a good game, basically. And when I read the ridiculous storyline, I had even less, hope for a promising good game. And then I saw the opening sequence when you first began to play, and I had even less hope that it would be a good game. Because it just basically seemed like it was a tired old Commando type clone. But then I started to play the game and realized that this is a fucking excellent game. I mean, seriously, this game had a lot of very good features. It had a few bad points, but I'll get to that in a minute. Let me talk about the good features here. First of all, the controls are pretty darn solid. I mean, this game doesn't suffer from controller issues and glitches of that nature. There are 3 buttons on the Genesis controller, but only 2 of them are used because the A button and C button are repeated. They do the same thing, and that is to fire your gun. The B button fires your Mega Crush Bomb or whatever the hell it is. And that essentially destroys everything on the screen. Now, although there's a lot going on the screen at any given time, there's a lot of characters on the screen and a lot of bullets flying, this game doesn't suffer from too much of a slow-down flicker, which can happen on some shooters. I was surprised to see it handled it pretty well. There were a few moments when it did seem to slow down a little bit, but I've seen much worse slowdown in very good games. Now, in this game, you can power up your weapons by picking up various power-ups. And as you can see, I have just about the coolest weapon in the game right now, the flamethrower. It's a very satisfying feeling just holding down the A button and whipping around in circles and just burning all your enemies all around you. And your enemies don't just flash and disappear and die when you burn them with the flamethrower. They actually catch on fire and turn into a pile of embers. That's pretty f***ing cool. Now, aside from your weapons, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, you have your scoring, a timer, and a life bar. So, yes, this game has a life bar, which means that you can get hit by more than one bullet, which is fantastic, because some of these Commando-style walk-around shooters really can get difficult if it's one bullet, one death. So that was a very pleasant, nice feature to add into the game. And speaking of that big bar to the right-hand side of the screen that has all your information, that's my first complaint with this game. And that was just a little unnecessary. It's almost a quarter of the screen. Almost a quarter of the screen on the right-hand side is taken up by data. And that data is important to gameplay, but I think it could have been hidden a little better than they did. Instead of a giant blue swath right down the side of your screen, blocking essentially good gameplay area that could be used for fun. Now, my other complaint about this game is that it's only one player on the Genesis. And in doing my research, I found out that the arcade version of this game was in fact 3 players. So what could have been a very good, at least 2-player simultaneous gameplay game for the Genesis, we're stuck with 1 player. And I'm not quite sure why that is. It might have to do with technical limitations, because frankly this game plays pretty darn smooth. And I think that maybe they opted for 1 player because 2-player simultaneous gameplay would have actually taken away from the quality of the final product. Now, as you can see, you have a set number of continues in the game. And after you run out of continues, that's it. It's game over. And while the skill level felt pretty on point, that changes once you get to the end bosses. They seem to pretty much annihilate you and at least wipe you out once during gameplay, essentially using up your continue. Now that, of course, could be offset by the involvement of a second player to help deflect some of the heat of the end bosses from you. It's just really a shame that this feature isn't included in the game. So all in all, Mercs really is a good game. It's excellent. Excellent gameplay, challenging yet not frustrating, and fun. If you're a fan of a run-and-gun type game, this is for you. So definitely pick it up if you come across it and you have a Sega Genesis. Or if you have a Wii. I think this is available for the Wii Virtual Console also. And there you have it. I'm Dommy from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.